Hey friends, and welcome to the Soulfire Sessions at the intersection of passion and purpose, where you align with what sets your soul on fire. We're your hosts, Alex and Mariah, and we're so grateful that you're here today. We are all about reclaiming clarity, rebuilding confidence, and designing a future that you actually fit in. So take a breath, feel the spark, and let's step into the fire. Hey, Mariah.
Hey.
How are you?
I am so good. So excited to be back with you.
Yes, I'm so excited for this episode tonight. We have Robert with us tonight, and would you like to just do a little intro for him?
I would love to. I have been friends with Robert for several years, and we were having breakfast the other day, and we were chatting, and we were talking about what Soulfire is, and we were talking about living life aligned with your purpose. And Robert said some things that were really profound. And he was talking to me about his life before and his life after. And he is now an entrepreneur, which I will let him tell you a little bit about, and left a long career in corporate, successful career, to do something completely different. And it's just, it's different. And I don't know how to elaborate on that more, but super excited to give it over to Robert and have Robert answer a couple of questions. And I'd love, Robert, if you would just start and tell us, what you did before. We're just going to call it the great before. And then we can transition over and tell our listeners, and then we can hone in on what the difference is.
Cool. Hi. Well, I'm Robert, obviously, and prior to my current thing that I'm doing, I spent about 30 years in corporate tech, starting out as a programmer and working my way into different management roles, and then eventually ending up in a large corporation, working as a manager at first, and then working my way into a director role where I had many different teams and a large number of associates across the country and around the world. Really challenging. I always described it as they pointed two fire hoses at you and just told you to drink.
Yeah. Well, I remember when I met you, I was new to the tech organization, and I was asking who are the most influential leaders that I need to meet, and your name was one of them. And my life has been much better and much richer since I've known you, and we've maintained a strong friendship through the years. So I believe you're a fantastic leader, and I know you really liked leading people and solving problems. When did you decide that it was time to do something different, or what prompted that?
I think as companies evolve, things change and leadership changes sometimes, and the things that were all lined up before don't necessarily all line up anymore. And,
Preach.
I had a long time, had a long time of a really hard struggle of not being aligned with what I was being asked to do. And, as I went through that, it creates a ton of conflict, and it puts you in a really stressful situation where, your internal values and the things that you've always believed and wanted to do and the direction you've gone are now being challenged in a way that, you're not necessarily comfortable with. I'm the guy that, I just want to do the right thing, and not to say they didn't, but their right thing was different than what my right thing was. And I've always been people focused and driven to let the people excel. And I figured that I would ride on the coattails of that, and, recognition and reward would come to me if I did a good job taking care of the teams. And, when that switches, that makes it awkward at best. So that was when I, started looking at what else I could do.
Yeah. What fears did you have about leaving what you had done for 30 years?
Oh, gee, the obvious, right? Fear of failure, fear of financial, commitment, the risk associated with it. Am I good enough to go do this? Is it? I'm late in my career, right? It's a big change to make. When you're 90% of the way through where you're supposed to be thinking about retirement, and now all of a sudden you're just tossing it all in and saying, okay, let's go for this. Different. So it's scary. It's definitely scary. And I am blessed to be in the position that I'm in right now, and still a struggle, still a challenge, but it's still, it's definitely worth it.
Yeah. Everything that you said, I had goosebumps because I resonate, and the feeling of I don't want to, the fears that come along with doing something different. I know a lot of our listeners have felt that. I know I have felt that. And did you decide before you left the career that you'd had for 30 years or like after that you were going to jump in? Did you know what you were going to go do before you left?
Yeah.
Or was it after? Before?
Yeah, it was definitely before. It was, I've been blessed with a wife who is a serial entrepreneur. Her nickname for herself is Creative Genius, and it's pretty apt. This is, I believe, the third or fourth business that she started since we got married. And, it was one of those things where when I was back in corporate world, and, I was traveling all the time. I mean, I spent, 4 or 5 years just racking up frequent flyer miles and traveling all over the world and the country. And, my wife says, I think I want to go do this. And I'm like, great. I don't have time. If you want to do it, that's fantastic. But, I don't have the cycles to participate in it, so I can't, be there to go help. You're just going to have to go do it. And all that was great. I continued traveling, and she did this as an empty nesting project. Both of our kids were leaving the house and going off to college, and she was trying to find something to occupy her time. And after about a year, she was like, I just don't know if this is the right thing. We were doing a farmer's market, and, getting up early and, hot in the summer and cold in the winter and peopling all the time, all those things. And it was, and so I said, well, I'll go to the farmer's market and, see what it's like. And I just, we were handing out samples, and I was just amazed. I watched people's eyes light up, and I was like, oh my God, we've got something here. This is gold. And from that moment, it was always in the back of my mind that was the backup plan. And I didn't know that it would need to be implemented, but it was. And, it was such a blessing that we were given that opportunity to have the wheels set in motion and to, kind of have a foundation under us and the underpinnings of a business. And then whenever, things started to get unhappy, it was like, let's just go all in. Let's see what it takes and go do it. And so definitely knew about it beforehand, and we're okay with going there, even with all the fear and all the risk.
That's so cool. Thank you for sharing that part. I love the vulnerability in that. So how long have you been out of corporate and now into your after plan?
Wow. About 18, well, probably 16 months. So getting close to 17. So yeah, right in there.
I'm ready for the great reveal. Tell our listeners what it is that this magnificent business product thing that you took to farmers markets, that your wife began.
Yes, do the big plug.
Things.
Yeah. Yeah, it's Aunt Susie's Granola. It is, started out as a empty nesting project for my wife and has grown into a full-time job for both of us. It employs our daughter. It, now have a friend's son who works for us part-time. So it's definitely gone way beyond our wildest imagination of what it was. We've been in business now. She started it 4 years. We're just ending our 4th year, and we'll be starting the 5th in November. Never would have imagined that, we'd be where we are today. She started with a single recipe that was her aunt's, and, she made the granola and gave it to a friend, and a friend wanted to buy it. And, 4 years later, I'm here talking to you about it. It's definitely the American dream. It's, it's not easy. It's not always fun. It's always hard, but it's definitely worth it. When you start to see, and if you had told me that at my age I'd be baking granola and selling granola, I would just have told you were crazy. But here I am. It's, it kind of goes back to one of my early career things that I did before I went back to college, and I was in sales. I know that shocks Mariah to no end to hear that I might have been a salesperson at some point, but I always love selling, and so it gets me back to one of my passions, which is working with people and talking to people and just being forming those relationships at the farmers market on a minute by minute basis, and with retailers and wholesale accounts, in a much more deep level where, you're playing the long game, and you're definitely, investing in the future and not just a one-off easy transaction and you move on. It's definitely an investment in a relationship that you're building. So that's where we are. And it's basically, we've started with one flavor. My wife took that and modified it. I think we just released our 37th different flavor. We do everything from cranberry pecan and original to blueberry muffin, bourbon pecan. We're going to release monster cookie for a flavor for the fall. We'll do Christmas cookie again for the Christmas season. And it's really one of those things where we're chasing it as fast as we can. It's, one of those things, you have a good product and you just are trying to keep up. And, we've tried to balance that with how do you grow the business without, I had a guy a couple of years ago that I went to lunch with, and he's a financial advisor that's a friend of a friend. And he, was telling us, well, you need to do this, and I can get you in touch with this marketing group, and we can go get you involved with these investors, and we can do all this stuff. And I was like, whoa, pump the brakes, dude. It's, because all I saw was dollar signs, and all I saw was, the big pit of, okay, now I'm beholden to everybody else. And I think, where we are and what we've built is ours. And, if we want to have investors at some point in the future, we can do that. It's just a matter of, we're going slow, and I say all the time that I don't want to get over the tips of my skis, right? We're trying to rein it back and keep it where we can keep up with it, and we can grow it and be successful, but, not get to that point where we get in a bind or in a pickle and we can't deliver, we can't meet customer expectations, all those things. So that's what it is. Aunt Susie's Granola.
I'm glad that you went into the different flavors and things like that as well. I just came back from a business trip and took Aunt Susie's Granola with me to Pennsylvania and gave it out.
Cool.
Almost like little thank you, to the office staff in the office where I was. And they were all just raving about it. And it's amazing. We have it at our house. It's a staple. And so it's wonderful. So the listeners that haven't tried it yet should go pick it up, where can they find it, Robert?
Oh, gee whiz. It depends. We're in Northwest Arkansas. We're in many, many different gift shops in and around Bentonville, Rogers, Fayetteville. We're at the Fayetteville Farmers Market pretty much every Saturday except this one. We're at Allen's Grocery in Bella Vista. We're actually in 24 states now where we have wholesale accounts selling our granola. It's been just a wild and crazy ride to see it grow this much.
I remember being out of state. I was somewhere and I sent you a picture. It was like Oklahoma or something. I'm sorry, Alex. And you were like, yeah, we sell it there too. And I was like, this is awesome. So you've like really got after it and it's really impressive. So anyway, go ahead, Alex. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I'm in Kansas City. So can I order it online? Will you ship it to me?
Sure. Yeah, I always tell everybody, we can, you can buy it online. You can buy it at the farmer's market. Our goal is to, get you to try it once. And then, once you become a regular customer, then we'll get you a subscription so we can just deliver it to your door every month. And it's one of the really crazy things that, that's been so shocking. And I never would have thought it, is my wife got into the Fayetteville Farmers Market at the beginning of this. That was how it all started. And it was post-COVID. There were some openings and just she had a great sales pitch and a great product and she got in. And so now fast forward, I'm the farmers market guy and we see so many people from so many places that it's been just like planting seeds. Everybody that comes to the U of A, everybody that comes to Northwest Arkansas for a wedding or some sort of event, or a track meet or a baseball game, or a concert. And, we get so many different visitors that, just take those seeds out and plant them elsewhere. And it's been really cool to watch that come back, over and over.
That's awesome. So one of the things that you said earlier on was that, it's stressful and it's hard. And one of the pieces that really, when we were talking at breakfast, that I can't even say it like you said it, but you talked about sleep, you talked about stress, you talked about hard. And for people that don't know, I mean, you and I do, but people that don't know, how would you describe that? Because I can't put it into words, but I feel like you're much more eloquent, at least today.
I don't quite believe that. But on the other side of it, I mean, to your question, I think it's a passion, right? You just have to be. It has to be something that you believe in, that you're bought into. And even when it gets hard, it makes it worth it, So when it's 3 a.m. and you're trying to get that last batch of granola baked so that you can deliver it to the customer the next day. And you've been doing that for, 5 days in a row. You question yourself, it's so much harder than some of the other things that I've done in the past. And for anybody that thinks being an entrepreneur or owning your own business is easy, it's not. It's definitely one of the hardest things I think that we've ever done, and it challenges every aspect of your life. I mean, because your family has to be all in, you have to be all in, your money's all in. It's everything. It's not you can't straddle the fence. You have to be 100% committed, but the rewards and the satisfaction and I guess just the satisfaction you get of seeing what you're doing grow. And, I'm very lucky to be a part of what my wife has created. It's actually a woman-owned business. And, my title is production and sales. And I tell everybody when they ask me what I do, it's sales and heavy lifting. I sell granola and I lift heavy things so that we can make granola. That's kind of what I do now. And I left a, successful corporate career to go and lift heavy bags of oats and go sell granola at a farmer's market. And that doesn't seem logical to a lot of people. But I sleep really well at night. My stress level is way below what it was for the last several years before I was doing this. A lot of my medications have gone away. So many aspects that you don't even realize are affecting your health and your family and your relationships. And, it's just amazing whenever you start to realize how all those people come together to support you whenever you step out on that plank and, take that risk. It's just amazing. So.
That's great. You said something earlier about, one of the fears you had leaving corporate was the fear of failure. How do you see fear of failure now? Is it different that you took that step?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like the poster child for telling everybody, go find your passion, right? Go find a side hustle that's something you care about. If you love taking pictures and you think you want to be a photographer, go take that first step, right? Go buy a camera, go book a session with somebody, go do something, to move in that direction. I had a conversation with somebody several months back and I said, so are you doing anything on the side? You're frustrated and you're upset and, so what's your backup plan? And they said, well, I really like doing X, Y, Z. And I was like, so have you taken any steps towards that? And, well, no. Well, why don't you? Can you create an LLC? What do you do to, start putting the wheels in motion so that you can be there? And, it's starting a business or being an entrepreneur or being part of a business isn't about, you just flip a switch and all of a sudden you went from 0 to 60. It takes those baby steps. It takes the having the guts to get out there and sign up for a farmer's market to, go and create an LLC so that, you have, or whatever your business structure is going to be, doing the research and figuring out, how you want to structure things and figuring out how you want to price things and is your business model relevant? But you got to take those steps. They don't all just happen unless you go start taking one baby step at a time. And it's like a snowball. It starts to pick up steam and grow bigger and bigger. And it makes it, much more, or it makes it less daunting, I guess, if you take that first step. But most people are comfortable and it's easy as long as you've got that paycheck coming in to not take that step because you don't feel the need to until all of a sudden you need to.
One of the things that kept kind of replaying over and over for me when you were talking is how we are almost conditioned to find our way to a safe path, to a path that makes sense, for a path that has been charted, for a path that has security. And I mean, I remember career days, even as kids, it's like you've got the nursing jobs, you can be a doctor, you can be a lawyer, you can be a business person. Like, here's all the things, in corporate, like these structured path. And as I think about AI and as I think about technology and as I think about the way that everything's evolving, which we won't get into here, mixed feelings for some. I think the three of us are adaptable, etc., and riding the wave. But the needs in our future economy are shifting. And I think there's, in my opinion, I'm biased, obviously, but I feel like there's not a better time to lean into your strengths and your passion and to those things that set your soul on fire and figure out your differentiator, and figure out that, because that just so much is changing, and with the technology and just with bureaucracy and red tape, and sometimes the safety of, and was it really that safe? Robert, you and I worked at the same place, and I didn't feel that safe. Safety in jobs like that. It's almost like security is a fallacy,
Yeah.
Because really, at the end of the day, you can count on yourself, right? Even if you've got a job that's safe, or more stable, or has a path drawn out, it doesn't hurt to like you said, to lean into your backup plan, or lean into something as a side hustle or a side gig, or have a passion project, because you never know, because the day might come that technology can do your job, and then what?
Yep. Had a guy that was manager that I reported 2 years ago. Wasn't that many years ago. It was probably 12, 13 years ago. I was a developer, and he was like, Robert, one of these days, everything that we're doing now is going to be the business people will be able to do this. And, they'll be able to do everything we're doing today with Excel. And, I kind of laughed at him, but in retrospect, he was 100% right. And he was right way quicker than I thought he would be. And, I think that's from technology. Everything evolves so fast. Things have changed more in the last 5, 10, 15, 20 years than any of us could have ever imagined. And the speed of change is just amplifying. It's getting faster and faster and faster. I think you just have to find something that, to your point about things being scary, not being stable and not being, feeling like you're safe, or whether you are safe or not safe. The thing that I've told several people is, you're basically in a position where you feel like you're loyal, you're doing all the things, you're doing all the hours, you're doing all the travel, you're bending over backwards trying to get to that level where you get a good eval and you can get that next promotion, and you can check all the boxes that get you to where you want to be. And you're doing everything in your power, and it just takes that, and there's no reciprocity to the loyalty. You are just another cog in the wheel, and it doesn't matter what level you are. Unless you're the owner of the company, basically you don't have any control or any say in that. There's example after example of, the person who is helping to put together the next layoff or the RIF, and, they're knee deep in, putting together the list. And then at the very end, they get called into the office and said, by the way, you're part of it as well. That's the name of the game. And, it's all about profits. It's all about shareholders. I was kind of surprised that it took me that long to realize it. And I was a little embarrassed, actually, that it took me that long to realize that, I was just, expendable. And I guess that was, and it's hard, it's really hard whenever you have put your heart and soul and everything into a career, and all of a sudden it's not there anymore. And, for me, I went out and did the job search thing and, talked to different people, and, it's the market has changed so much in technology that where I am in my career, I'm not the number one candidate, most days whenever I walked into interview. And, there's a bunch of people that were doing a lot of things that were not things I was passionate about doing. And, that just reinforced that going in the direction I was going was the right direction. because I tried to parallel both. I was like, oh, I'm going to keep looking for a job while I keep doing this. And if I get something, then it'll make it easier. We'll just, straddle the fence and keep going. And it didn't happen. And, so we just had to keep chugging along in the direction we were going with the business.
Yeah.
But how cool is it that you were open to recognizing, when the doors closed or weren't opening, you're like, okay, this just reinforces I'm where I'm supposed to be, right?
Yeah.
Oftentimes people get discouraged and get frustrated by that. And I think sometimes God, the universe, has a funny way of pointing us where we need to be pointing. So for whatever reason, right? And so that's awesome. And your story is so inspiring. So many things that you said tonight resonate with me. Our journeys were different, but we both kind of made our corporate jobs our identity and big part of who we were. And I'm wondering if that was hard for you in shifting that identity. I've shared on the podcast before, it was one of the hardest things I ever did. Leaving the idea, the vision of who I thought I was going to be, I guess, or who I thought I was, which you kind of hinted on with the nobody ever says thank you when you don't take PTO, and you're expendable. But what was it like for you to shift that concept of identity and who you were and how you saw yourself? It was really difficult. I mean, I think it was a grieving process, right? It's you have to let who you think you have been die and, completely open yourself up to what the new possibilities are. And that's, and it's a long process. I mean, I'd never been through anything like this before. Right. And it's a process where, it makes you question everything about who you are and what you've done and what you did. And if it was you or if it wasn't you or all the things, right? You're just sitting there just questioning daily, hourly. You go to bed and you get up the next day and you're like, wow, if I could have done something different, what could I have done? And it's just so much self-reflection and, getting up every day and trying to figure out, you have to go through the anger. You have to go through the loss of friends. You go through, contacts that you had daily contact with that now you don't ever talk to again, or maybe you reach out to them or they reach out to you, but it's a much less frequent, and it's lonely is quite frankly what it is. And that makes it really hard, especially, when you're like us. I thrive on people interaction and just talking to people and, having those, that was my entire job. And that was probably part of the problem was that, part of my job was, just being a people person and, but I still felt strongly that was who I was at my core. And, I wasn't willing to, so I kept coming back to that, even though I was going through this struggle of, I wasn't willing to compromise who I was to be something they wanted me to be. And, that was my moral compass of, this is who I am. And if it doesn't work, then that's okay. But it caused a lot of, there's still a conflict there. It's a daily struggle for a long time. It took me probably a good 6 months. My wife would probably tell you it took a year. She might tell you I'm still going through it. And sometimes it is, it's hard, but, you have days of doubt that you're doing the right thing. But it's definitely worth it in the end. But it is hard. I won't lie about that.
That's really beautiful. I think I hear a lot of you saying, I've grown in different ways and I went through this process. And so through that, what do you think is the biggest thing that's changed for the good in like within you?
Oh, wow.
That's
I'm not that person. No, it's the biggest thing that changed for me. Wow. I think I'm probably more connected. I think I'm probably more grounded, and I'm less focused on my career, and I'm more focused on the future and my family and friends. It's not well, everything else gets shoved to the side so I can go get on this plane and go around the world and go do this thing. It doesn't mean that I'm not passionate about it. It just means that I think the biggest thing that's changed is I found a better balance.
That's great. And that's kind of the purpose, right? That's where we want to be when we align our purpose with our passion. We want to have freedom and balance and joy and all those things. And that's why we make the decision and make that leap.
Right.
That's great. Well,
Most definitely.
I have a question that we ask every guest that I'm going to ask you. We have two, so I'll start with the first one. And that is, what sets your soul on fire?
Okay. Wow. To me, and I've alluded to it several times, it's people. It's helping people find their North Star, helping them find where they want to be. What I always say, what do you want to be when you grow up? Right. And it's, I'm still not grown up. We're still trying to figure it out. And regardless of what you think when you're 18 and you go to college and you pick your major, it's probably not going to be that, and it may not be that when you're 60. It may not be that when you're 80. Who knows? I mean, but helping people find that, and that's still something that I care about, and I care about deeply. I've said, one of the biggest things that I want to do in this business is build a business where I'm able to hire people and treat them the way that I want to be treated. And that is, in a nutshell, who I am and where I want to go. I want to be that person that, gives people an opportunity and helps them find something that they care about.
That's amazing.
I hear Gandhi's quote, "Be the change you wish to see." Like, yes, love it.
Right? Snaps.
Yes.
Okay, our second question is, and you sort of answered this a little bit, but if you could give advice to someone who's trying to figure out what sets their soul on fire, what advice would you give them?
Yeah, I'll be a broken record. It's, just don't be afraid. Go take a step. Go try something. It's not going to come to you, most likely. You're going to have to go out and get it. And, sometimes you get lucky and, the truck drives by and what you're looking for falls off the back of the truck and the truck keeps driving, right? But most of the time it doesn't. And most of the time what you're finding doesn't, or what you're looking for doesn't even exist yet. And you've got to go create it, and you've got to go, quite frankly, have the guts to go do it. And that's, I think, what holds most people back. And I really want, to help people find that. I think that's the key to, what I love. It's just, I want people to be able to find something that makes them happy. One of the things I love is what Mariah has done, and so proud of her to see her take off on this venture and, go do something that really makes her light up. Right. It's, so I think that's great for everybody. And it's, I want more people to not feel like, the corporate job with the retirement and, the end of your life is, waiting to die or going to travel, and you can't do that. I think go find something that you live for the rest of your life, right? It's not about putting yourself in mothballs at the end of a corporate career and, waiting until the day you go home. It's about how do you find something that makes you excited to get up in the morning and go do it. Doesn't matter what it is. If it's, working on cars, or if it's, flying airplanes, or, go figure out some way to make it something that you can go do that you can enjoy and you can get involved with it. It's really cool when I see people doing that. And, it's also funny sometimes when you see how many people are holding them back. And I think that's one of the biggest things that everybody struggles with is they have ideas and they have things they want to do, but there's very few people that encourage that. Most people are giving you reasons why you can't, or why you shouldn't, or why it doesn't make sense. And, I'm in no way comparing myself to any of these people, but you look at all the successful people that have gone and done great things. They didn't listen to the naysayers. They didn't listen to the people that said, you can't do that, or you shouldn't do that, or you won't do that, or you won't be successful. There's a Ashley McBride song where she talks about something like that. And she says she wants to go sing in, Nashville. And one of her teachers says, oh, you can't do that. And, and she says, but here I am, I think that's what holds most people back is people telling them they can't or they won't. And it's really hard to do that if you don't have somebody saying in your other ear, you can and you should. So,
or even being that voice for yourself, and saying that you can, even if there's not one person that's saying you can, let that voice be your own.
Yes.
Yep.
I think I hear Robert telling every listener, you can go do it. Yes. That's amazing. Robert, thank you so much for being here. We're so grateful.
Thank you.
We're able to come on. Yes. So I just want to recap real quick. Aunt Susie's Granola. You can get it online. We'll put the website on the show notes. So if you want to try some granola, also if you're in Northwest Arkansas, you can go get it in the stores. So,
but it's in several states.
And it is in several states.
It is. Yep.
Awesome.
AuntSusiesGranola.com. Go check it out.
Perfect. And for Soulfire fans, thank you so much for joining us. We are out there on social media. You can find us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. And Mariah, where can they find us online?
TheSoulfire.com.
TheSoulfire.com. Y'all, all three of us are here to help tell you, you have the courage, you have the freedom, and you can do it. We look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you all.